What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Geekdom Gamescast. Your mission today is to listen to us enjoy the last installment of Agent 47's, the last installment for now. There's actually news yesterday that the Hitman saga is going to continue, even though they're moving on to James Bond. But with me are agents Artez Bailey. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
And this is supposed to be Dave Beaudrie, but it might be Agent 47 in
nope,
in
I
disguise.
am not bald. I do not have a tattoo. What I do have is migraine problems, and it's been raining, so the humidity is like staring into a ring light is exceedingly painful right now. So instead, rocking the cool shades. So you're gonna have to just kind of bear with me. But I'm very excited to be talking about some Hitman today.
Usually, I don't like guests looking cooler than me, but Dave, because you got that Eternal Sunshine poster like we talked about off mic, I'll make an exception for you.
I mean, Artez is cooler than both of us.
Hat too.
Yeah, I mean,
hat.
Yeah,
exactly.
I
got a rep. You know, I got a rep. Props to Jamie for the hat.
So we're talking about Hitman 3. Just came out on PS5, Xbox Series X, PC, all the stuff. This is IO Interactive's last installment of the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy. Before they do James Bond, the next James Bond game, they literally said recently that they're doubling up staff, and it's going to be a huge project. These guys have been doing Hitman forever. They've done some other things too, like Kane and Lynch. But they are kind of being celebrated now, I feel like, because they came up in the perfect window of January where there's like not a lot of games next gen coming out that are big releases. As everyone knows, like Hitman 1 and 2 were on sale, so a lot of people are finding that they could just import that progress, which is what I did into Hitman 3 and play through the whole trilogy. Gentlemen, you play Hitman more than me, apparently. Let's go Artez first. What's your history with Hitman, and what's your favorite parts about it? Like, what do you like to what brings you to the series a lot better?
The thing that brings me to the series is I like the sneaking around, the gathering of intel, talking to people, and then just disguising yourself. Because it seems like every single level you do, there's always someone that actually looks like 47 on each stage somewhere down the line. So there's always someone there that looks like him. Yeah,
that's true. We'll get to it later, but that Berlin level, I was like, oh man, am I looking for just a bunch of bald dudes with barcodes at the back of their head? It's going to be hard to see. Just like how everyone sees IC agents, are they that camouflaged?
You just walk around with a barcode scanner and just going beep, beep, beep. Oh, nope, that one.
Dave, what about you? You've been playing for a while too. You said off mic you played even Absolution.
Well, I mean, going back further than that, I played Hitman 2 Silent Assassin on PlayStation 2.
Oh, nice.
I don't think I got I didn't like beat it because there's very few games that I actually go all the way through on, just because I don't know, I have the attention span of a gnat. But I really enjoyed that. And then I don't think I played any of the other ones until Blood Money, and then it was Blood Money and Absolution, and then I love
Blood Money. Blood Money was so good. Blood Money was so good.
Yeah, I got Blood Money and Absolution, then I got them remastered on the Xbox One. So now, like, my Hitman collection currently immediately available is Blood Money, Absolution, and then the entire current trilogy. So it's definitely something I'm a fan of.
I hear
Blood Money, the ending of Blood Money. The ending of Blood Money is so good. The ending is so good.
Is this whole franchise the same story from one all the way up through World of Assassination, or is World of Assassination kind of its own story?
I'm a little confused on that. I think for the most part it's standalone, but it certainly has references to the earlier games. But like whether, for example, like the story of Absolution, which I know is kind of the more divisive game in the series, but whether or not that's considered canon in the current trilogy, I am not clear. I don't think so.
No, it's not. It's not. Absolution is not canon. Absolution was pretty much the end of Eidos. Publishing
Hitman.
IP.
Yeah.
Them publishing Hitman. Just about. I didn't finish Absolution, but just by the way, the beginning, because you actually in the beginning of Absolution, you actually murder Diana in the beginning of that
Oh
of that
shit.
game.
Well,
Oh.
except you then end up actually not. So it is possible that it is possible that she could still come back in this, but I believe they're kind of at least distantly separate.
Oh, interesting. But
Yeah, they said this was a
Diana is a
reboot.
character.
They always said this was a reboot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, props to them. They went through 2 major publishers throughout the course of making this. Hitman 1 was released episodically because they just didn't have the budget to just keep on going all the way through. And it seems like 3 is like kind of them finally getting their due. A lot of people, they made their budget back within a week, which is kind of stellar for this company and franchise in this generation. So I'm excited. I've only played Hitman 1 through 3, the World Assassination trilogy. I gotta say, I didn't. I've heard stories like in Blood Money. That's the one where you could shoot out the bottom of the glass spa, right? There's like some fancy glass spa. Is that the Hitman? Because I saw like memes about that.
I never heard anything about that in Blood Money. Blood Money was basically it was just 47 and guys telling stories about his contracts.
Oh, okay.
Blood Money, and you went on different contracts, and then at the end of the game, you're inside of a casket in suspended animation. You got to bring yourself back up to murder the people that put you there. Actually, Diana put him there in suspended animation at the end.
Oh man, it sounds like these games are like way more sci-fi than this whole trilogy was, because this whole trilogy seems just like a spy thing. The thing about the Hitman stuff is I didn't realize that the game is like, I always thought that like maybe I wouldn't like this game because it's just hardcore stealth, but there's like a goofiness to it that's really fun, and there's also like a creativity that's really fun that I had no idea. Dave, what are your feelings about Hitman 3, and how do you like to play Hitman? I like to ask people that.
Let's before I do that, let's back up slightly. What are you playing Hitman on? I'm playing it on Xbox One.
Okay, I'm playing on PS5.
Okay. I'm playing on PS5 as well.
Okay, so I'm on the low end old system, so it gives us different kind of contrast. But I think we need to get that out of the way.
Why is there some? How does it play on Xbox One?
Oh, it plays really well. I haven't had any issues with it. But like, for example, when talking about graphical fidelity and stuff, I mean, obviously my experience is going to be different from yours, but I haven't had any, hiccups or stutters. Or I will say, and I this is something that probably would come in later, but the major criticism that I have to give to the entire trilogy is the fact that they require you to be online. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been playing, and then just in the middle, I just get this thing saying, you are disconnected from the servers, blah, 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 blah. It's a single player game, motherfuckers. Like, there is no reason to have this type of consistent interruption. And I'm assuming it's for digital rights management reasons, but like, it's not necessary. It interrupts the gameplay experience. Their servers have been extremely unstable since the launch.
Yeah, it kind of bit them in the ass in this one because they have a new publisher.
I agree with you on that too. Yeah, I guess they just want to keep you online and keep track of leaderboards and all that other stuff. But you can play offline too.
Yeah, but if you play offline, you don't get your progression, and I think that's horseshit.
Yeah, it's
frankly.
stupid. It's stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, it's a cool thing about the game, but it is like I wouldn't excuse having to play online all the time for what it does, but it is cool that you get to have unlocks from Hitman 1 and 2 in your game. And
Absolutely.
You could play 1 you could play 1 and 2 in 3, in the engine of 3, which is, I played most of the Hitman 2 in the engine of 3, which is like fun. I didn't notice anything too jaw-droppingly new about it, but the crowds were a little bit bigger, and like the resolution was a little bit more crisp. So it's cool that you can do that.
Well, also the cool thing about that, and it's both a blessing and a curse in a way, because the reason that they're able to do that, and I'm sure it took a lot of work to even get it to function. I know some people had issues with progression carryover and stuff, but I think they've ironed out a lot of those issues. At least on consoles. I'm not sure about PC.
Yeah, the website wasn't working for me the first day it dropped. Go ahead.
It was
like they warned you that your progression might not carry on if you started playing without the whole moving over Hitman 2 to Hitman 3. So I was like, ooh, like that's kind of a bummer. I want to start playing Hitman 3, but I don't want it to be for not, you know, like I don't want to like lose any progression. So I just kind of messed around with some stuff.
Yeah. So, but the reason they're able to do that is because the 3 games are so incredibly similar in how they play. And if there's going to be a main criticism of Hitman 3, I would say that it doesn't do a lot differently than what the previous games did. It just does it so well that it's absolutely worth a play and worth. If you like the previous 2, then there's no reason why you would not like 3. But I think they could have done more as far as different loadouts or different kind of new weapons or whatever. Like when Hitman 2, they brought the sniper rifle back in, which you didn't have the briefcase in Hitman 1, but because Hitman 1 carried over into Hitman 2, you could then play those Hitman 1 levels with the briefcase, with the sniper rifle. Now it would change potentially how you chose to play those levels. So that's the cool thing about Hitman 3 being basically a platform for the entire trilogy. And if you do have all of that content, like that is such a massive amount of content and hours that you have to just kind of play in that world if that's your thing. For me, I tend to always, my first playthroughs are always really messy. One, I don't have a lot of discipline. If someone's leaning against a rail, I'm probably just going to shove them over for my own amusement.
So you just kill everybody, don't you?
No. It's more selective. But if someone's leaning against a rail and the button says push, I mean,
push the button.
It's like, well, okay. And so then I tend to get more creative on subsequent playthroughs. The first playthrough in my mind's kind of like the canon one, like just trying to get the mission done. And if something fucks up, then like, so be it. I'm got to try to roll with it.
Oh, so no, you don't save scum. You don't like reload loads because you messed up.
No, I do that because if shit goes bad and then I get killed, I want to make sure I can start up before shit went completely bad.
Yeah.
But if for the most part, if I am trying to do something stealthy and it doesn't go right, I'm not just going to reload. I was going to be like, well, let's play this out.
Yeah.
And then later when I go back, I'll try to like find some of the more creative solutions. Like I remember in Hitman 2, when I realized you could take out one of the targets with a cannon, I was like, oh, I am going back and using the cannon.
Sapienza
in Italy. If you go to the castle, there's 3 cannons, 2 or 3, I think there's 3, but one of them is pointed coincidentally right at that golf course at the house. So all you need is a little bit of gunpowder and a cannonball.
So you took out one of the twins with the gun with the cannonball?
Not one of the twins. It was the dude, the man and the woman doing the virus.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I took out the dude because he was golfing. So I fired a cannon at him and just like erased his entire golf course.
The one that I want to do on that one that I can't seem to get right is you can kill that dude with an exploding golf ball.
I heard that too. Yeah, I can't find. I don't know where the golf ball is.
Yeah, I keep forgetting too. I think I ran across it one time when I was doing like a chaotic run. Because I'm like you. My first run is like really slow. And like I slowly walk. I try to look cool within the game, even though no one's watching. I just do it for my
sunglasses though.
I wear cool stuff, and I try to act slick. I try to play it like it's a movie. So I'm like, oh, like this is just like a crazy spy movie for me. So I'm trying to be slick, and I walk. I don't run, just to make it like look cool. And then when I finish that level, it usually takes me like an hour because it's just exploring and stuff. And then when I finish that. I start doing the challenges, and whenever I get frustrated and I just want to like I just start getting like not bored but like just antsy because I'm not playing like a shooter or something, like I do my John Wick run where I'm like every guard is expendable. If there's any fun way to kill anyone, like you said, pushing them over ledges or releasing winches to like drop chandeliers on them, I'll do it. In one of those runs in Sapienza, I found the golf ball, but like I was just so just fuck it all, like YOLO at the time, that I just did not record in my mind where that golf ball was, and I can't find it anymore, and it sucks.
I'm a big fan of throwing the fire axe because 47 is just like he could have been a pitcher or a quarterback if he didn't love just murdering people so much, because that dude has got an arm that just never misses. Now what sucks though, once in a while I've been gone to like throw like a screwdriver or something, but then the person moves just enough that the game stops doing the tracking of them, and instead I just gently lob it at them. I'm like, that was my weapon. I'm getting shot. What are you doing?
Then you alert them as soon as you throw it.
It's got some.
And you look so stupid because like they're looking at you and you're just like underhanding like a pair of scissors at them or something.
Like, here, this is an offering to you, and it's hilarious too that for such a lethal assassin, I mean, that dude runs like he has absolutely no cartilage in his knees.
No,
you're right about that.
He's not sprint. Really. That's a couple things that I wish they had done more with in part 3, because it was evident, I think, that those were issues in 1 and 2. Is one, the animations are generally pretty good, but there are some janky ones that have been bad since the first one. Mainly if someone's on the ground and then 47 goes to break their neck, it's like he's using the force. Like his hands are like like a foot above their head, and then he just kind of does that and you hear the sound. Yep. It's like, guys, couldn't you make that look a little bit better by part 3? Like, why are we using the same animation that, like, where he's clearly not even touching them, and all of a sudden they're just like one with God or whatever. And then one thing I think they could have done more with for part 3 was the ability. I wish there was the ability to combine items more. What made me think of it was, I think it was in part 2, because I was replaying that recently leading up to 3 coming out. So that's why it was in the top of my mind. And I found a toy tank, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Let me connect my, explosive charge to it, and then I can send it out to whatever, but there's no option for doing that. I'm like, what the fuck is the point of this tank? And then I looked it up, and it's solely a melee weapon where you can just throw it or hit someone with it. I'm like, well, that's bullshit. Like, if you're gonna give me like a toy that can like roll somewhere, like, let me do something with it. So I wish they had done that for part 3, because I think they could have.
That would be so cool if they introduced like skateboards that you can put C4 on and stuff.
Stuff that you could combine in your inventory in some way. It doesn't have to be all encompassing, but I think that was a lost opportunity that they could have done to really make part 3 stand out a little bit more, especially if that was something that could then carry through the past 2 games, like through the platformer part 3.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see a gadget like that in 007.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see, and then maybe in the future Hitman stuff. I think it's like what you said, Dave. It's like they're just married to that one engine, which was like developed in 2015 for release in 2016. So it does feel a little last gen and stuck in its places.
It looks great. It's just there's just moments of jankiness that I think could have been smoothed out at least a little bit more.
Yeah. Sometimes your target, they'll get stuck in an animation too. Sometimes.
Yeah, there's some clipping through doors and shit like that once in a while, but it's not often enough to where it like broke my kind of immersion. The only thing that broke the immersion was that goddamn thing about disconnecting from the servers.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, when I played the China mission, one of the targets, he kept getting inside the chair and he kept sitting up and down over again. I'm like, would you please get out of the chair and walk around? He just kept standing up and sitting back down over and over again. Fuck it, I just shot him.
I was like, yep, that's the solution right there.
Artez, what are your thoughts on Hitman 3? How are you liking it so far?
I'm loving it. I played all 3 games and I enjoyed the story too. The stories, I feel like a lot of people say the story's subpar, but I like the story of where they went with it and how it's going to end once I beat the final stage. And Hitman 3 is a lot shorter than the first 2 as well.
Oh, is it?
Shorter than the first 2, yeah.
It's got a similar number of stages, though I've heard, because I believe it's six maps, which is comparable at least in number to the previous ones, not counting the expansions that part 2 got. But I've heard that the last one I've heard it put in terms like doesn't count, because I guess it's just a lot more linear and it's in a lot more like you're on a train essentially. I don't think that's a spoiler, because we're trying to avoid spoilers, just to be clear. But so the last level, I haven't played that yet, but I believe you are on a train, and so it's a lot more kind of linear than what the previous ones are. But
you're on the train. Yeah, that's right.
What are you guys' thoughts? The one thing I do think that 3 did was it took the things that we are familiar with from 1 and 2 and then either added a wrinkle to them on each map or tried to subvert the expectations some way in each map. Like in, you know, a lot of people have already talked about the murder mystery in the second map in Dartmoor, or in Berlin where you are in a nightclub and you don't know who your targets are, and you have to like they took stuff that you're already familiar with, but then they've added new wrinkles to it, and I think that was kind of the strength of part 3. Would you guys agree or disagree on that?
I would totally agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of times in
the story.
Yeah, there's a lot of times in 3 where I would see a character in the level and be like, oh man, I wonder what it would be like. I want to be that person. Like in Berlin, I went to the rave. It's an underground rave, and you go in and you see a DJ in like a really well rendered rave. In COVID times, I was just like, wow, like this kind of feels cool to be like at a party again. I'm not 20 anymore, but you know, it's fun to reminisce. And I saw the DJ, and I was like, man, I want to be that DJ. That'd be fun to be the DJ. I wonder what you could do as a DJ, and you could do it. And there's actually an assassination challenge. I won't say anything, but you can kind of kill someone, set up a kill as the DJ, and it's really freaking awesome. And like you said, Dave, it subverts. It is the same formula as all the Hitman games, but it also plays around with it as far as the context of the situations. So. Yeah. Usually Hitman 1 and 2, what you're doing is like your handler, Diana, is giving you a mission, and you kind of like use ICA resources to set up how you're going to go about assassinating your targets and completing all your challenges. But what I like about 3 is there's situations where kind of story-wise, you don't have a handler, or you have a new handler, and or you have a situation where you don't have mission stories because you're kind of entering a situation blind, exactly, like Berlin is entering a situation blind. And I do like that they kind of have little ways to tweak the formula here and there. And then like for people that don't know, if you haven't heard anyone talk about it, in the Dartmoor mission, which is you're like at basically an English palace, a manor. There was a murder mystery happening, and a private investigator is coming to the house at the same time you're trying to kill your target. And you get to, if you want, like, they really signpost it, they really show that there's the private investigator there and a mission story pops up, but you can take out that private investigator and literally just play a murder mystery within Hitman 3, which is really, it feels like a point and click adventure, which is something I really like about the series in general.
Did you go in that way? Did you go in that mission that way?
The first time I did it, it was easy to take that guy out, and I was like, okay, let's do Knives Out. And then there's like literally a whole mechanic for like going to clues, like interviewing all the family and suspects, and then like going to their bedrooms and finding clues and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
A couple things on that. One thing is you can clearly tell they being the programmers, they wore their inspirations on their sleeves. Like you can clearly tell the first episode, I'm going back to Hitman 1. The first the first level in Abu Dhabi is straight out of Mission Impossible. Like there's even a Halo jump in the very beginning. Like, and it's very clearly inspired by that. Like they're not hiding it or trying to like, but it's clearly like, to me, it plays like they're fans and they're like, let's do this. Like, yeah. And I'm with them. I'm like, yes, let's do this. And then second level, yes, absolutely. They saw Knives Out and they're like, well, yeah, let's bring that into our world.
Yeah. And the third one is John Wick. And then I like the setup for that, the narrative entrance, because you pick up an earpiece from, you're basically trying to find ICAs. This is a slight spoiler, but it's not going to ruin the game for you. But you're other people trying to kill you for the first time in Hitman, and they're looking out for you, and you can kind of hear their chaos as you start taking out their people, which is really exhilarating in a way. When you take someone out and they're like, Montgomery, where's Montgomery? Like we gotta handle this or whatever. It's really cool.
You asked earlier how I tend to play the game. I'll give you 2 examples that applies to both of those 2 levels. So I had recently unlocked like the Ghost sniper rifle from Hitman 2. So I brought that with me for the Dartmoor mission. And then I used it to take out the private investigator and like 7 security people that were all by like that front gate. And then I dragged all of their bodies into the bushes and then went in as a private investigator. Now I have to go back to that level because I didn't realize that if I took out the target before the mystery was solved, the mystery like just goes away.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
Oh,
well,
wow.
like she's
even know
here.
that.
I have poison. Like, why not? And then figured I would get back to the murder mystery later. But nope, once she dies, I guess 47's like, fuck it, I don't care anymore.
Yeah. I think by context, by context clues you can figure out who it is. But like you won't be able to accuse them or anything. I didn't finish the murder mystery. I got to a point where like I was able to accuse someone. It was the wrong person.
Oh, nice.
But it gives you. But, like, it doesn't mean you failed the game. Like, for me, it just gave me a meeting with the target, and I was able to get the information I needed. Have, like, a little story beat, because there's cool instances throughout the whole trilogy where, like, the world and the lore of the narrative of Hitman 3 is actually told sometimes through the characters in the levels as, like, you're going around, sneaking around, and eavesdropping and stuff.
Oh, yeah, you'll hear references to previous games.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. Now... Obviously, we're avoiding the spoilers. If you're able to say, how did you know that you had accused the wrong person?
She basically was like, "Oh, actually, I heard from a podcast that it was not the right person, and I didn't collect all the."
The game itself isn't like you're right or you're wrong, because that seemed like I'm not quite sure how that would work.
It didn't tell me for sure I was right. I just I thought the game would be like, oh, we're gonna leave this open ended, and it's up to you to figure out who the. Like canonically, like see who that was in your like who do you think it was? But there is apparently like through a podcast a definitive person who killed that person, and you can catch them like red-handed. I also looked at the challenges, and it said like every time I went to a bedroom to collect clues, I only collected 2 out of 3 clues. I didn't know you could use your camera to scan for clues too, which is one of the new features in this game is the camera.
I'm not a big fan of the camera.
It's not that big of a like. It doesn't add too much. It just kind of has like a spy thing. I think it's
a good hacking tool. Like I said,
I think it's a training wheels for 007. Yeah, they're like, oh, let's see what this would be like. You like it, Artez?
Concept.
Yeah, I like it when you. It's convenient for when you need to hack stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like in the Chongqing level, kind of.
The China level, definitely for the China.
That one I used it a lot, but it's still. But every time I had to bust the thing out to like do, it just kind of took me out of it a little bit. Like, god damn it! Like, where's this fucking thing? Like,
yeah.
All right. Whereas
that China level was crazy. That was a crazy ass level.
Whereas if I could just use the lockpick to open something, at least that's immediately like just a click, and he does his thing, and then I'm still in the mindset. The camera to me was more distracting than it was. Like a new feature to get excited about, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's just an item and it's not like a new gameplay mechanic with its own button, I think it just kind of proves it's like not an afterthought, but it's just not as in depth. It's not as like thought. It is kind of an afterthought actually. I won't mince words. It's a little bit of an afterthought. It's just another item that you do. It's not like a gameplay mechanic tied to a single mapping. What's your favorite level so far, Artez? And your favorite?
I would say Dubai.
Okay. Do you have a favorite moment within that level?
When you're throwing the knives and then you kick the guy off the roof.
Oh, that's a mission story. Okay, yeah. That's a fun one. What about you, Dave?
Are we talking Hitman 3 only, or are we talking the entire trilogy?
Let's just get Hitman 3 only.
I'd say probably Berlin.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Because it's such a different environment, and there's so many different layers to it as far as the verticality, and because it's kind of underground and you got to go through all these various, and each level is very kind of different and unique as you get closer and closer to the actual floor. And the way I played that level is I wasn't quite sure what I needed to do to figure out who the assassins were, so there was a little bit of trial and error there.
Were you just killing random people again? I mean,
yes,
apparently,
and then seeing if the ticker went up. I'm like, nope, well, that was not one. I'm just gonna walk away.
What about
that was interesting. That was Berlin was interesting with all the But how many targets was it? I think it was 8 targets.
Well, you have to take out. There's 11 possible. You have to take out 5, and that's the cool thing is that makes that level a lot more replayable. Because it will be a different experience each time you go through. That's the one thing with the Dartmoor, with the murder mystery, is once you've done that track, that's not going to change. You know, it's not like the mystery is going to be different every time you go back. Whereas in Berlin, the targets can actually be different every time you play it. So that's one thing I think they did that was very kind of shrewd, is certain levels that have those types of gimmicks. And they did something similar with the Patient Zero campaign from the
I never played that mission. Was that a good mission?
Is when there's a level there, as an example, where Diana's giving you feet into your ear about who your sniper target is. That will be different each time you play it. Like the order of the targets is different, so you can't just automatically zoom in somewhere and kill somebody. You got to wait for her instructions because they're not going to be the same each time around. They did something similar with Berlin as far as the targets being more targets than what you need to take out. So it can be, you can run into different people each time. Whereas Dartmoor, that one track is very linear.
Yeah. I think I agree. Berlin is one of my favorites too, just because it's so versatile. I kind of the only thing is at first I was like a little more just like you, frustrated about like how to find the targets and stuff. It was a little bit freaky. But once you really get into it and see the challenges of like who you can kill with what, it gets really fun, and that's like kind of the most sandboxy thing in the game. It just takes a while to like, that first time you play it just takes a while to get to the club. I was like, what are we doing right now? And then like after like 20 minutes you're like, oh shit, this is like a huge rave, and oh, I get it, it's John Wick, it's cool, this is crazy. And so like replaying that level is a lot more fun. Dartmoor on the flip side was a lot more fun off the bat, like narratively, to get in. But yeah, it's less flexible and the challenges are a little more they're less kind of creative. They're more just like more challengey challenges. We're just like
yeah, Dartmoor had a lot of hidden rooms too. That's what made the house cool. A lot of hidden,
That's a big ass house, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd ever want to live in a house that big and creepy looking. I kind of sympathize with the kid that you talk to who's like, who wants to live in this museum? Which is really fun. I like the characters and the writing in all the Hitman games. They're always like, they got this like funny sarcastic humor to them, kind of, and it's always good for chuckle.
Sarcasm in the writing of 47 is always hilarious to me. Like there's a level in the second one where if you want to, you could, in the neighborhood, which is a throwback to a level from Blood Money, but you can actually pose as a real estate agent and then take somebody through a house that is one of your targets. And 47 trying to act as a real estate agent where he's like explaining the rooms is hysterical. Like you can find it on YouTube where he's like, this is the living room. There are 2 exits. People watch TV here. The floors are easy to get stains out of. And he'll take the dude through the entire house up until like the point where you decide to just take the target out. But the dialogue's hilarious. Same thing where there's another one where you're posing as you're posing as like a medic or a doctor, and you're hooking somebody up to an IV drip. And then she asks what the contents are, and you rattle off a whole bunch of stuff, and she's like, "Isn't that poisonous?" Yes. Like, should I be worried? I'm not.
I think I love that stuff. 47's so funny because he's like no matter who he turns into, he's like an expert at it. Like
the dude can play the drums. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. He can play the drums. He can DJ. He's apparently like a good therapist. In Sapienza, you could become a psychiatrist and go to talk to one of the targets, and like you give him like decent advice, I guess. Like he's
a massage therapist in the as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was an interesting level too. That level was huge.
Yeah,
you in the middle of a war, and you got to assassinate 2 people.
Yep.
And, well, that's the thing too, is because like it's kind of inevitable as we're talking about part 3 that inevitably the conversation's going to Hitman 1 and 2 as well, because really, and I don't say this in any way that they've shorted content on any of the 3 of them. All 3 of them are full fully realized, very detailed games in of their own.
How do you expect?
I play dirty. That's how you defeat a stronger opponent. You strike from behind.
But the way that they do have them put together and the fact that they do tell one story all the way through, it really is like one entire massive game by the end. And that's why kind of inevitably, as we're talking about part 3, we're immediately going back to part 1 and part 2, because it really does all link together in a really kind of ingenious way.
Yeah, when you go back to the levels in 1 and 2 and in 3, it doesn't feel like you're lacking anything. You're not like, oh, this is an old level, it feels dated. It does. Every level still holds up really well. Like, you can go back to Sapienza in 2021 and
that level
have
is
so much
good.
fun. Yeah, that level is so good. That might be one of my favorite all times is Sapienza.
Absolutely.
What about you, Artez? What do you think? What's your all time favorite level? I'm kind of getting into the racing one too. Miami is pretty fun.
That one's definitely up there as well.
Yeah, Miami was fun. I played that demo at E3 actually when Hitman 2 when they announced Hitman 2 I played the Miami level. Yeah, that level was a lot of fun.
Because once you figure out you can kill you just find different ways to destroy that race car is like really cool.
I saw one on YouTube where they actually took out both targets at the same time. Like somebody like shoved the dad off a ledge and he fell onto the race car as it was going by the thing, and I was like, holy shit! Like,
wow!
Like you could play this game for hundreds of hours and still there'll be things that you didn't know that you had the ability to do, and that's really a credit to the level design.
Yeah, this is one of those. This truly is a game you could. There's so many game styles you could have fun with, whether it's so there's a lot of people that just love speed running it. There's a lot of people like Dave that love to cause chaos, and me that love to cause chaos and just find random creative things. You could play it like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone and set up booby traps and stuff, or you could play it like completely like classic way where you could like fiber wire everyone only in a suit and just do like the whole classic stealth thing of not being noticed and causing distractions. And that's probably the most boring way, but a lot of people do those classic challenges for fun, I guess.
That's like one of my favorite missions. The last mission in part 2 when you kick that chick off, when you have to, she's at a spa and then you have to. It's like a private spa. I forgot where it's at, but I ended up kicking her off the roof. I disguised myself as a yoga instructor and I kicked her off the ledge.
The one in the snow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, in Haikido. That's the last level in part 1.
Yeah.
No, that's the last level in part 1?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I keep confusing them. Yeah, that level was fun.
That's what I'm saying, though. They do all blend together into one really awesome game, And that's why if you're getting it basically comes down to this. If you enjoyed Hitman 1 and or Hitman 2, then you will absolutely enjoy Hitman 3, and it's worth taking a look at. If you have never played any of them before, get 1 or 2 first, whichever one's cheaper. Try that, and then if you like it, definitely. But if you enjoy that style of gameplay, get all 3 of them in one way, shape, or form, especially when they all blend into where you can play them all through just loading up part 3. Because then then you really get the full experience. And I liked the story of part 1 and part 2 a lot more than most people did. Like, I liked the cutscene stuff in part 1. I actually think the cutscenes in part 1 in some cases look a little better than the ones do in part 3, to my surprise. But
yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little weirded by that, but the story thus far, because I said I haven't finished 3 yet, but I definitely think the story has always, I thought, been underrated. So I like to see that
it has been
just due in part 3.
Yeah.
They dive deep into the story in part 3 versus the first 2, because basically in the first 2 you're just chasing pretty much Gray. Pretty much he's the shadow client. You're pretty much chasing him down and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I think part 3 uses all of that to then bring the relationship of 47 and Diana very much front and center in more of a way than what was in 1 and 2. So by the time that they do that, you're already kind of invested in those 2, and the stakes feel higher because of that.
Yeah. Part 3 feels a lot like a personal story, like kind of like Skyfall, actually, if we keep talking about.
Yeah, that's a really
James
good reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good reference. That absolutely tracks.
Mm-hmm. How far, what would you like to see this team do? Like, what are you excited? how does this make you excited for 007, their game? Because
I'm very excited for 007.
You think?
Very excited.
Yeah, I feel
it'll just be interesting to see if they decide to do any car levels. That'll be a different. That's going to be interesting to see if they decide to do any car levels, because that could either be hit or miss with car levels.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of the animations in a lot of the action stuff, like Dave was talking about with snapping the neck and like not really animating that. If they could figure out how to make this engine work, or I don't know, like whatever engine they come up with, if they could figure out how to make a lot of like the running stuff and like the actual fluidity of the characters to be more like an action game. But I hope it does have a lot of this DNA in it, where maybe not exactly like 47. I'd like to see like more dialogue choices from Bond. Like maybe you could seduce, maybe you could con people just through dialogue choices. But the whole disguises thing, the whole like heist scenarios you get to do, and like figuring out like the mini sandboxy puzzles and like,
choose and make sure you choose the right gadgets for each mission.
Yeah, exactly. Like I hope that stays.
Make sure he has good martial arts skills as well too. They might have to get a whole. They might have to use I can see them using Unreal Engine 5 for 007. I can see them using that.
Yeah, they could do some of that. But I could see a world where a 007 game is just a lot of the same DNA as Hitman, where it is more spy stuff and it is more surveillance and it's more gadgetry. And then like an action, instead of like making a clean escape at the end, like you trigger like a action set piece. That's very much more like Uncharted or Tomb Raider or something like that.
I absolutely think this is the perfect marriage. Like if there was a company that I just could pick any to make a James Bond game, I mean, I think this would probably be number one or very high up there.
Yes.
Now and you know, which is interesting because last time, you know, I was on here, we were talking Star Wars games and, you know, what would be your ideal company to make a Star Wars game? And a lot of our answers were a little bit different than what the ones that are actually currently being produced. You know, like Rockstar came up a lot as an example for like an open world game or whatever.
Yeah.
In this case, I mean, IOI is really like they are the ones that you want to make a Bond game. Now, the important thing to remember though is it's the DNA is absolutely there, but I also think Bond needs to be different. There's a lot of similar things that can be implemented, but I don't want it to just be another Hitman game with a James Bond license on it.
No,
they need to make it its own unique property. And a lot of that's also going to come down to, you know, again, people have had different opinions on the story about Hitman. Bond, I think you do need a solid story there to really keep things moving and really get people involved. And, you know, yeah, there needs to be more diversity as far as like a driving level or cars or things outside of the open world sandbox that Hitman is known for. I do think they need to bring more of that in for a Bond game.
Oh, definitely.
I can see them going in. Sorry, Mike.
No. That definitely was all I had to say.
I can see them going in a route with Bond where you have to where you're basically earning your license to kill. I can see them going in that route.
You see it as an origin story then?
Yeah, as an origin story, definitely, yeah.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I think because they've done the origin story kind of recently with sort of with you know, the Daniel Craig movies. In my mind, I'm seeing Bond will probably already be established so they can just immediately jump in with all the fun toys and gadgets and not have to explain everything. But I don't know. It's, you know, you can make a case really either way.
Yeah, as long as it's IOI doing it, because they really got this down. This felt like a spy ass thing, and
this was a proof of concept for Bond.
Yeah, and a great game in its own right. So it's really cool that they're making a lot of money on this, and they're finally getting their due after having such a tumultuous development cycle with working multiple publishers and stuff. It's really a good redemption story.
Let's actually talk about that real quick, is just for people who don't know, like Hitman 2 especially was way better than it had any right to be, given all of the loss of funding that they had in the middle when Square Enix pulled out. They had to lay off a ton of their staff. That's why there's not full CG cutscenes in part 2, which I thought would be more distracting than it was. They did such a good job with the style that they had to go with, being more kind of animatics, I guess. But they still did such a good job with what they had that game was so good. And the fact that they were able to do that, having to lay off people and having their legs cut out in the middle of its development in order to be able to make a part 3 and then release that themselves, like that's an incredible achievement, that the quality has not dipped in part 1, in part 3, but I think especially in part 2, where you'd be more likely to see that effect.
Yeah, in a time where you get all these developers that are like kind of bouncing around and doing different projects, trying to find like their one single player project and their one battle royale project, it's really cool to see a developer just live within an engine and a world and a gameplay style like Hitman, and just be confident in it and like explore and expand upon it without like breaking too much of it, and just seeing where that goes. This is so fun. We should get to our like final thoughts and like maybe like a review in progress kind of score. Artez, do you have...
sorry,
Dave,
go ahead,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say this really quickly. I don't know if either one of you guys did, but I got the deluxe because I wanted the soundtracks, because I like movie score, and that's essentially what this is, the soundtracks and the art book. So I was like, all right, I'll do that. Still have absolutely no access to them.
Whoa!
And I think that's and they're like,
I got the deluxe
yeah,
edition too. I got it as well myself.
Have you been able to access that content though?
I haven't really tried, to be honest with you.
Okay, so
still playing the game.
The way that works is, it took me a second to figure out. You also get director's commentary and like the intro of the.
Oh yeah. I did see that on the rave level. Yeah.
That is a starting location to access the commentary. It'll say like start here and then commentary included or something. I figured that out. But to get the soundtracks and the art book, you have to go through an IOI account, which I have set up and I have linked. And it's still just not showing anything. And last I heard, they were like, yeah, we fixed that on PC. We'll get to that on consoles. It's like, no, assholes. Like, I paid for this content. I've had this game for over a week or whatever, a day or two after it came out. You need to do better than just say, oh yeah, it's coming later, when it was supposed to be there day one.
Yeah.
And there's been really no communication on that. I haven't been able to access that stuff. And I do think that is worth mentioning.
Oh, totally.
In addition to the server issues that they keep having. The rollout has been kind of messy.
I think these server issues are kind of lockstep in that whole stuff too, with the website and your accounts, because
their infrastructure has been rough.
Yeah. They switched. They've literally had a different publisher, I think, for all three of them. They just keep switching publishers, and which is unfortunate, because like I'm sure legal teams behind the scenes are like saying like, oh, we need to get our content, can't go on sale for this. We don't want to do this whole like easy rollout from just grabbing your save from 2 to 3. I don't know what I have no idea what the situation is. I don't think there was a rights issue
there. I think that was strictly, it gets complicated, especially because I think one game might have only been on Steam and then others might have been on
Right,
Epic
and go to Epic,
I think that is more of an issue.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it's been an issue with game rights, because IOI owns they bought, when they left Square Enix, they took Hitman with them.
Oh, okay.
And then Warner Brothers was solely the publisher for part 2, so they didn't have the publishing rights to it, or the intellectual property rights to it. So I don't think it's a rights issue. It's strictly, as far as progression carryover, that's strictly a technical problem that they're trying to work out, especially with Steam and Epic. And I think it's more of an issue on PC than it is on console. But as far as the deluxe items not showing up, the soundtrack and the art book or whatever, like,
yeah, that's just a failing of.
They just need to do better.
Yeah,
they just need to do better.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. That it is a bummer that the rollout has sucked, considering the game itself is actually like really good and polished and really runs really well. Artez, what's your what are any more thoughts on Hitman, and what would be your review in progress, like for now, Bible score for this?
Excuse me. Sorry, my Bible score, I will give it 5 Bibles. It's a great game. I give it 5.
For a split second, I thought you were going 5 out of 10. I was about to be like, wow.
No,
was waiting for his time.
That being said, this game's garbage.
No, let me change that. I'll give it 4.5, because sometimes the AI in the game it's just horrible sometimes. I give it a 4.5.
Okay. What about you, Dave? Any last thoughts? And what would be your, for now, Bible score? This isn't, for the listener and the viewer, this isn't gospel.
Right. Well, especially because I haven't finished the entire thing. But right now, I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5, and then the series as a whole a 4.5 out of 5.
Oh, okay.
Because again, it's one thing to look at the individual piece, but with this particular game and the way that it is set up, where all of them can be merged into one kind of platform, I do think that deserves extra consideration. So taking that into consideration, I would give it a 4.5 or 4.75. 3 just solely by itself, maybe like 4, between 4.25. It's a great game. Like it's a great game.
And like you said, you haven't explored all of them, and hopefully you'll find some things in that chonking level is really cool.
Oh yeah, the China one is great. I haven't done the vineyard yet, and I've heard a lot of good things about that.
I heard same here. I've heard it's so in depth that like it causes frame rate issues. So I heard it's
the
like
vineyard level. What is that? Is that after China?
That's after China, yeah.
Oh yeah, I just finished that. I beat that level. Yeah, that. Oh man,
I'm still replaying everything. Okay,
that
cool.
That was interesting.
As someone who just got into this series and discovered how it's like kind of an adventure game to me, more so than just a stealth game. It feels like a point and clicker adventure game mixed with stealth, mixed with sandboxy stuff. I'm super high on it. Just having started the World of Assassination trilogy in December, just 3-4 weeks ago. So this is like, it's hard for me to judge this game by itself because I'm taking it as a whole, like personally. And it's really good. It's like it's got to be like a 4.5 for me, maybe 4.25 for just the 3. And so far nothing has hit me quite like some of the missions in 2 and 1. But it's still solid, and there are new stuff that I really like the whole Dartmoor thing, that first go around, and that whole John Wick thing in Berlin that are new enough. So I'm sure that's gonna go ahead. I think my score is going to go up over time for the 3 itself, but I just feel like a 4.5 out of the whole. I just want to shout out the whole Hitman series in general, the whole World of Assassination trilogy. It's such a fantastic, different feeling game than anything that's kind of really out there at this level.
Well, even there's still a ton of content that we haven't even talked about, the escalations, and then also the limited targets that they always do that apparently are going to be coming to part 3, where you have like 2 days to take out this one target, and after you'll get one shot at it and no saves or whatever. Like that's going to be a thing coming up. So we haven't even seen everything that the game has to offer yet, and obviously that's not, it's free of charge for anybody who owns the game. They're not charging anybody extra for that. And I think that's a credit to them as well. The one thing I will say that we haven't really talked about much that was not really improved in part 3 either, that needs to be better for Bond, is the gunplay. The gunplay needs to be sharper, it needs to be smoother, it needs to be more hard hitting for Bond than it currently is for Hitman. So hopefully that's something they put some of their resources into moving forward. Yeah, especially the AI when you get into full on firefights, which you're not really supposed to if you're playing the game how IOI wants you to play it, but it should be said that it's not punishing enough if you get caught. Like you could easily get out of it because the AI is so bad as far as the combat AI. That's I think that's actually by design though, because part of the fun of Hitman specifically is figuring out how the systems work and then figuring out how to manipulate them. Yeah. So in most games, I would agree that normally really stupid AI is a negative. In Hitman, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a positive, but I would say it's intentional.
I just specifically mean the AI when you're in a gunfight. Because
see the gunfight, the best gunfight, the best Hitman had, the best gunfight was Absolution. Oh, okay. The gunfight in that was much better.
But I think it's purposeful that the AI is a little dim, so that way when you do end up in these pile-ons, that you do have a way of getting out of it, so that you can continue.
That's true. That's fair.
So I think the AI is purposely a little bit dumb, but that's also, I think, part of the intentional fun of it in this case. I do agree that would need to be better for Bond, but for Hitman, I do think it specifically works.
That actually, thinking back about it and remembering the dialogue that you could overhear between some of the guards, maybe it is right that they're dumb, because they are kind of dumb. You'll just hear guards being like, Are you ever gonna give me back my Blu-rays, man? Like, like just stupid stuff like that. It's really fun.
Oh, you turn a corner and jump in a laundry hamper, and then they turn the corner and they're like, he's vanished. Where did he go? And they will never lift up the thing. And that's by design. Like that's not an oversight. They purposely programmed it that way to make it's part of the fun of it.
Or you just change clothes and all of a sudden like you kind of blend in, even though you went from a guard outfit to just like a simple apron and you're a cook now. And they're like, oh, well, it's not this guy.
God, it gets awkward when they see you changing, though. I've had that happen a few times. I'm like, I got like half a pair of pants on. I'm like, give me a minute. Give me a minute.
On expert, you have to be very, very careful what you do on expert mode. You can't change in front of nobody or nothing. The AI is a lot smarter on expert mode.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, keep it on professional. Fair. I don't fuck with the advanced difficulty.
Yeah, me neither.
Nah, I mean master. On master, the AI is very tough on master.
Yeah.
I've been playing in master all the way through.
Cool.
You're a better man than me.
Yeah, you're better than me too. You're, that's so crazy. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. If you're listening, join the Geekdom Gamescast Facebook group, facebook.com. Just search the groups and go to Geekdom Gamescast and just Google us for the pod. We'll put a link in the show notes for the podcast directory too. We're under a different show now. We're under a different network is releasing our podcast episodes.
Really? I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, that's something I've got to communicate better. Dave, is there anything else you'd like to plug?
Yes, I have a weekly podcast, One Day Closer to Dead, with myself and Jason Bailey. We talk, pop culture. We talk current events. We talk pro wrestling. Anything else that comes to mind. Generally, we'll launch normally on Thursday nights, but it's weekly. We've done like 76 episodes so far, so we're not going anywhere.
Nice.
You can find that now on Spotify, iTunes, any major podcast platform of choice. And then also, I am in Job Guys on Amazon Prime, which is a 12-episode web series, 8 to 12 minutes each. You can burn through the whole season in like 2 hours. And I was a writer on that. And I was the writer on that, and then also co-produced it. And then I play a villain on the back half as well. So Job Guys on Amazon Prime, please check it out.
Sweet. Thank you for being here again, back to back. Artez, what about you, sir? Thanks for coming on again. And
no problem.
No shout
problem.
out
we should definitely do a spoiler cast after we finish the game.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Aztec Studios LA, and also you can follow my clothing line at the Teddy Blaze on Instagram, and also the website teddyblaze.com. And also we have a digital billboard coming up in March for the clothing line as well, which is in Vegas off the I-215.
So if you go to Vegas,
you can also catch it. Huh?
If you go to Vegas, you can check out that billboard.
Yeah,
no, live stream that shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. And you can also watch me on my YouTube channel at Artez Bailey. I usually stream. Sometimes I stream my gameplay.
Don't you have Hitman 3 content up, right?
Yeah, I mean I put it on the Geekdom Gamecast. The first 2 levels I stream. I put both my streams up.
Awesome. And then you can find me at Myke Myke on Twitter and Instagram. And my other podcast is the Geekdom Fancast. I keep forgetting to shout that out. Going on the last 5 episodes. So check it out. We're almost to 200. It's crazy. I can't believe we've done so many episodes of that freaking podcast. And until next time, we'll be saving a seat for you in Dartmoor Manor, where we're trying to figure out who the hell killed this old dude. I forgot his name.
Keep murdering, folks.
Keep murdering. Happy hunting. We will now leave you to prepare.